You see the headlines all the time, right? Scientists discover a breakthrough. New study changes everything. But what if I told you the most important scientific work is the stuff we never ever hear about? In this explainer, we're going to dig into a pretty radical idea that the real key to better science isn't about success, it's about failure. So let's just start with that question. What if all those experiments that come up with nothing, the ones that are seen as failures, are actually just as important, maybe even more important, than the ones that grab all the headlines? It's a fascinating thought, and it really gets to the heart of a huge, and I mean huge, debate happening in the scientific community right now. To really get why this is such a big deal, we have to talk about something called the significance obsession. It's this culture that has basically been running the show in modern research for a long, long time. Okay, so if you're a scientist, you live by this brutal mantra: publish or perish. Your career, your funding, your reputation, it all depends on getting your research published in big-name journals. And historically, what do those journals love more than anything? You guessed it: positive, shiny, statistically significant results. And this is where the trouble really starts. This relentless focus on getting that positive result has led to something now known as the reproducibility crisis. I mean, get this. A massive 2015 study tried to replicate 100 different psychology studies. The result? Only 39 of them could be successfully reproduced. That's a huge problem that really shakes the foundations of scientific trust. So this crisis isn't just, a few bad apples. It's a deep, systemic issue, a silent problem that's kind of baked into the way we incentivize science itself. Let's break down what that means. At the very heart of this is something called publication bias. Let's paint a picture. Say 10 different research teams are all testing a new antidepressant. 9 of those teams find it works no better than a sugar pill. But one team, just one, finds a small positive effect. Now, which one do you think is going to get published in a fancy medical journal? Exactly, the one positive result. This creates a completely warped view of the truth, making the drug seem way more effective than it really is. Now, this pressure doesn't just skew what gets published. It can actually change how the science gets done in the first place. It encourages what scientists call questionable research practices. Things like p-hacking, where you just keep torturing your data, running different analyses over and over again, until finally something pops out as statistically significant. And then there's harking, which is even sneakier. This slide just lays it out perfectly. Good science, the way it's supposed to work, is a straight line. You start with a hypothesis, you design a test, and then you report what you find. But harking completely flips the script. A researcher stumbles upon a surprising little correlation in their data, and then they go back and write up the entire paper as if that was their brilliant prediction all along. It makes a lucky find look like a genius discovery. So if this obsession with positive results is the problem, what on earth is the solution? Well, it starts by giving some credit to the unsung hero of this story, the null result, that nothing we've all been taught to see as a total failure. Think about science as a group project to build a giant map of reality. A null result, finding out if theory is wrong or a drug doesn't work, that isn't a dead end. It's an incredibly valuable piece of information. It's like putting a big red X on the map that tells every other scientist, hey, don't waste your time or money going down this road. It saves precious resources and points everyone toward more promising directions. And here's the really crucial part. A positive result is actually more believable when we can see all the null results around it. If we know that 19 similar drugs were tested and failed, then that 20th drug that finally works looks a lot more like a genuine breakthrough and a lot less like a statistical accident. Okay, so we're all on board null results are valuable. But how do we actually fix the system and give them the respect they deserve? Well, one of the most powerful tools gaining traction is called pre-registration. Let's see how it works. Pre-registration is actually a pretty simple idea. Before you collect a single piece of data, you publicly post your entire game plan. You spell out your hypothesis, how you're going to get your data, and exactly which statistical tests you're going to run. This creates a time-stamped record that makes it basically impossible to p-hack or harcat without everyone knowing, because any changes to the original plan have to be publicly explained. And here's the big pushback you always hear. But wait, if you have to plan everything in advance, what about those aha moments? Where's the room for creativity and spontaneous discovery? And honestly, it's a fair question, but it stems from a big misunderstanding of what pre-registration is all about. See, pre-registration doesn't kill creativity, it just asks for transparency. You are absolutely still allowed to explore your data for unexpected things. You just have to clearly label those findings as exploratory instead of pretending they were your main goal from the start.
And this is a superpower for null results, because it proves the researchers didn't just mess up and fail to find something, it shows they followed their plan to the letter, and the effect genuinely wasn't there.
All of this really points toward a much bigger, much needed cultural shift. It's about changing the very definition of what we consider successful science. This chart shows you the real-world consequence of publication bias. When journals only show us the most exciting positive results, the apparent effect of, say, a new drug or a psychological theory gets massively inflated. The true effect, once you average in all those unpublished null results, is often way, way smaller. So the new mantra, the one that needs to be on the wall of every lab, is this: rigor over results. We should be judging research not by how flashy or exciting the finding is, but by how well-designed, transparent, and rigorous the study was from the get-go. A super solid study that finds nothing is infinitely more valuable than a sloppy study that finds something amazing. But this can't just be on the shoulders of individual scientists. The whole system has to change. Universities need to start promoting people based on the quality of their methods, not just the results. Journals need to start accepting papers based on the strength of the question and the study design before they even know what the results are. And the organizations that hand out the money need to reward transparency and reproducibility. And in the end, this isn't about adding a bunch of new, annoying rules. It's about coming home. It's about getting back to what science was always supposed to be: an honest, transparent, and step-by-step search for the truth, where every single piece of the map, especially the parts that say there's nothing here, is absolutely essential for finding our way forward.